Welcome back to another episode of Questions with Crocker with me, Dr. Crocker, an emergency veterinarian, and my husband, Shane.
I'm here.
Welcome back.
Yes,
It is late. It's past your bedtime.
it is.
I appreciate you being here.
Yes.
I will say, last episode, I talked by myself for like 25, 30 minutes, and time just flew.
I would last about 5 minutes.
You would never. But I am glad you're here. This episode's going to be kind of fun because we've gotten a lot of random questions, just people wanting to get to know you better. And so we're going to get into those. In case you're new here, this is Questions with Crocker. It's a podcast with me, a veterinarian, and my husband, Shane.
Who's not a veterinarian.
You're not a veterinarian.
No.
Doesn't like to use hands dirty. First tidbit about you. So we own a general practice together. I work emergency. I do a little speaking, a little social media, and we come in here and share our lives and behind the scenes and explain a little bit more about what's going on, especially in veterinary medicine. I do like the perspective that you bring because you bring a business background, entrepreneur background. So if you are listening to us on Apple or Spotify, welcome. And you can watch us on YouTube. You actually can leave a review, which would be amazing on any of those platforms also. We love your feedback. I love reading new reviews. And hopefully you're not too bored while you're here today. I do think that recently the episodes have been a little bit all over the place because basically we respond to questions that people send in or things going on in our industry. And there has just been a lot going on in our industry. So I think it's good to get into it. What have you been up to recently? What all have you had going on?
NFL draft. Been playing a lot of golf because the weather's nice.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff with the businesses.
What was the biggest shock in the NFL draft?
It was definitely Shador Sanders.
Oh, yes. Let me see if I can get this right. He dropped in the draft, I guess, overall, and no one really knows why because he's got a lot of talent, but maybe he's like too much of a firecracker to touch. And
Yeah, I think everybody's perspective was he would go higher, but the people that are writing the checks maybe didn't think the talent's quite there.
Mhm.
And on top of that, the circus that comes with him could be difficult. I like him. I think he's a good quarterback.
Well, you said something that I thought was interesting. You said from a business perspective, he's going to pack seats. So
I don't know why the Saints didn't draft him. I mean, it's a no-brainer for the Saints, but
if you are owning a business, I mean, sometimes the personality hire, even if the talent isn't there, can pay off if they can deliver on bringing people into a practice.
you know, talent over everything's always been the thing in the NFL. They bring in people that have drug, alcohol problems and strip club problems and everything else off the field. All he's doing is self-promoting.
Yeah.
You can use self-promotion as a business and generate more business off of that and more excitement. I mean, Dion's done it at Jackson State and at Colorado. I mean, why
The
not take
Savannah
advantage of that?
Bananas.
Yeah,
Like they have a personality, which is one reason why I really enjoy some of these large veterinary accounts where the hospitals like really show their personalities. And even, I gave a workshop recently at TVMA, and I would say I always separate everyone in a workshop by like, this is actually Dr. Andrew Rourke that gave me this idea, but to try to figure out what skill level people have on social media. And we kind of had like the Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook groups, right? And the Facebook group was the largest. There's a lot of people that were over 50 in this group, but they were like, we know social media is important. We need to get into it. But I told them, you don't have to be the one to do it. There's going to be someone in your practice that knows how to do social media.
I mean, we know that still on Facebook has like 2 million views for our hospital.
Yeah. And that video was just us like loving on pets. But I do think, as long as you're willing to kind of go with the flow and try different things, like you'll have a good time. And some of my favorite accounts, hospital accounts on social media are older practitioners that honestly probably have no idea what they're doing most of the time. Like someone's telling them like, read this, say this, and then they put the video together and they are hilarious. And just the fact that they like will go along with it and they'll have a good time with it, I think shows like that the practice has a good culture, that no one feels like we're too cool or too professional to do this. So I definitely encourage people sometimes just to like let their personality shine because I think they'll find you more relatable and more authentic than being like just the doctor in the white coat who's, zipped up. That was a segue. Sorry.
Love it.
I think I'm coming off of my overnight in the ER. I got like 4 hours of sleep, so I'm a little delirious potentially.
It's going to be a fantastic episode.
It's going to be such a good episode. Yay. I am glad you're here. I was a little frustrated starting my shift. So I've been coming in on days and across the board in veterinary medicine, we've talked about this before, but we're seeing that preventative visits are down. People are still having emergencies. But during the day, what's happening is because preventative visits are down at general practice hospitals, they're able to fit more urgent care same day emergencies in. So then they're not having to come to the ER, which is where I work, right? And usually we were inundated because practices were so overwhelmed they couldn't see anything. Well, now that's less. So I come in on shift and literally the doctors that are there, it's 2 doctors in the day. There's only one overnight. And then 2 doctors are there that was like, "Oh my gosh, we were so bored. So and so left early." Like they're just talking all about their shift and, how kind of frustrating and boring it was. And I'm like, "Buffalo Buttercups, like work the night with me." Like every single one of them doesn't want to work overnights, right? But on the overnight, I get slammed. Like I am running around like a chicken with my head cut off, which I love it. If I'm going to be there, I want to be busy. Are you that way? Like if you're working, do you want to like be really working hard so the time goes faster?
Yeah, I don't wanna just sit there.
No, I don't. One of the girls said I took up crochet.
Yeah, not doing that.
Like, and then from a business perspective, like as a business owner, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if I was paying these people what you're paying emergency vets and
Yeah, I
they're
kinda think that the ER is gonna start looking at numbers and say, "Okay, let's go to less vets during the day and staffing
well,
that around."
and the problem is we're not in the what we call busy season. So over the summer, we see a huge uptick in like puppies, kittens, parvo, just sicknesses because of people traveling. So it does get a lot busier usually in the next couple months, probably even during the day. But it's going to be very interesting to see. But I was like, can y'all just stop telling me how bored you were all day? Because I know every night there's going to be a point where I'm like, I want to cry or quit right now, but I don't because I love my job and I enjoy what I'm doing. We actually had an interesting case the other day, and I think that it's important to point out that as veterinarians, and this is just me being honest, we don't always know what's going on, right? Because our patients can't tell us, I ate this, I got into this happened. So we had a very cute little old dog that came in, like 14 years old. It's like one of those chihuahuas that has like, no teeth. It could be like a 20-year-old, it could be 5. You just don't know because it's an old chihuahua. And this thing came in for seizuring. Well, or seizing is the correct term. There's a lot of pets that come in for seizing, and it's not that. It can be collapse. It could be that they are trimmering instead. And so this dog was actually trimmering. So it was mentally aware, but it couldn't stand, and its whole body, all the muscles were just trimming. So I gave it methocarbamol, which is used to cause like muscle relaxation, use it for a lot of different toxicities. They swear that the dog didn't get into anything. They'd also been on a walk. It's getting hotter in Texas. Maybe it got overheated and it was having some side effects from that. We checked the blood glucose because that can cause some seizing type episodes. And that was a little low. So we gave some sugar, responded, but still was trimmering. So I gave methocarbamol to stop it. And it continued to kind of do it a little bit more. So I gave more. And ultimately, we came to the point of like the owner saying, okay, what is it? What do we do? And me having to say, I have no clue. Like, I have no idea. Here's the list of all the things it could be. And I can do A, B, and C to rule out all these things. But I still can't tell you that your dog ingested this specific thing that's causing this. Or your dog did get overheated 3 hours ago, but now it's here. And I don't know because it's got a normal temp. So it's kind of frustrating not having your patients be able to talk to you. And ultimately, we were able to get the tremors controlled and the blood glucose seemed to normalize enough that we could send it home on like oral medication to try to control it because they could not hospitalize. But I get so frustrated. But I've also learned, I think, being an older practitioner, that telling an owner, like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm treating the symptoms. We'll see if they respond. Sometimes that will reveal what it is, if they are or aren't. But do you think as a pet owner, like, would you understand that? Would you be frustrated? These people were very understanding. They were also Spanish speakers, so we had somebody interpreting. But I felt like it went okay. But sometimes I think, especially when I was a younger vet, I hated saying that. So
Yeah, I think you probably experience both as an owner, like, you can understand that you sometimes don't have all the answers, but you could also be frustrated because you don't have the answers.
and you want your pet fixed.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a lot of things that I tell people, like, I can tell you, give me this amount of time, this amount of money, I'm doing A, B, and C, and I'm going to fix your pet, right? And then there's so many other things that I have to say. I don't know. We need to do these things and we need to see how they respond. And you could spend all the money in the world and they might not make
Yeah.
it. Or, you could spend no money and they magically recover because they ate something and it's now out of their system 6 hours later. So we basically were like hope and a prayer, sent the dog home with things to try to maintain it and told him to come right back if, it decompensated again. But I do think that's one of the frustrating things. We had another really sad case, and it was a very sweet dog that presented again for seizing. Just goes to show you what owners think and what comes in is totally different. And this dog came in and right away, I could tell something was wrong. Her gums were very, very pale. So if gums are really pale in a pet, they're either bleeding somewhere internally, there's not good blood flow, or there's something affecting the heart or the lungs, so they're not getting good oxygen, right? So they're just not pink because they're not oxygenating. She wasn't breathing super hard, but she was uncomfortable. So one of the first things I do is ultrasound to look for, is there fluid and evidence of bleeding, or is there something with the heart and the chest? And she had pericardial effusion. Do you know what that is?
Not a clue.
So your heart has a sac around it, and she basically had fluid and blood in that sac. So something had happened, and usually it's a tumor rupture. But what happens is it fills the sac up and has nowhere to go. So then your heart is trying to pump, and it can't pump because it's got this like pressure pushing against it. And so I told the owner what was going on. I told them I was worried it was cancer probably causing it, but we needed to do a tap. And so I needed to stick a needle into the sac around the heart, and try to drain it and see if we could help. And I've done this a ton of times in the ER. I think because I've done it so many times and it's like gone well, I go into it like pretty hopeful that I'll at least get the owner more time with the pet, even though I'm not fixing them, right? Like I'm fixing the emergency issue. And so we put the dog on the table to prep it, and it was a very big chested dog. So I knew the tap would be a little bit harder. And I did the tap and I started drawing off the fluid, and I could tell it was bloody fluid, and the dog just coated. And it was like the first time that had happened with me doing this procedure so many times. It's like in your head, it's a possibility. And I told the owner that was a possibility. But because we're an open concept ER, she's sitting right there and she saw like the ECG just stop. And so we started running a code. And the crazy thing, and this is what I appreciate about the open concept ER, is we had another owner there waiting for their pet to have a procedure. And she sat there and like comforted her. And so they were talking and she knew and she understood, but obviously was still like heartbroken. Our team was heartbroken because we were trying so hard and we could not get the dog back. And I went over there and I just, she's like, I know. Like I didn't know how to say anything. She's like, I know. And it's always hard because I don't want my feelings to overshadow what they're experiencing, and that you're going to have losses in the ER. But I think when I wasn't prepared for that one, and she just was like, you did nothing wrong. You tried. And I was like, like, don't be nice to me right now. Like what just happened is horrible. But it was a reminder of one, just people being supportive of each other. And then also, the value of trying and being transparent about what is the possible outcomes. But it was a tough loss, and it was really sad. And it's so hard to go from the extremes of like helping the one dog, be able to go home and spend more time with their owners, and then losing that dog in a procedure. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make it sad and be sad right now. But I did want to just highlight the example of like two different patients with the same presentation per the owners and just completely different outcomes. And if you're going to go into emergency medicine, this is what you need to prepare yourself for.
Definitely.
And so it ended up still being a good shift. We had a lot more wins and losses, and the team really pulled together and did so much. But that was definitely a tough one. And I think now every time I do that procedure for the next, 10 times, I'm going to be more concerned and more anxious about it. It's just weird how you get in your head about things over and over. So sorry. Was that too sad?
No.
Okay. I feel like it's like weird to tell stories sometimes about what I do. And I think one of the reasons I share on social media is because if you experience it, like you get it. But I still feel like telling you sometimes is helpful just for you to like understand what I'm going through. And actually, one of the questions we got from a listener was, what is it like being married to an ER vet? So
You just heard it. There's extremes ups and extreme downs and everything in between.
there is. Do you think for the most part, I think it's funny because you said one time, like, you work emergency because of your horse personality. Like, do you think there's just certain personalities that are gonna work emergency? And what should you expect if you're married to that type of person that's like, "Yes, I'm gonna be an emergency vet." Is it gonna be mean?
No, no, no. It's the personality you marry. It's not their profession, right? I mean, I married you because of your personality. Your personality led you to
Mhm.
emergency medicine. That makes sense.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it's not any different because you're a ER vet. Your
that's true.
personality doesn't change because you're now a ER vet. Your personality was your personality that led into being
What
an ER vet. Yep.
what are some things? Because I feel like you are very good at being supportive and kind of understanding that sometimes, like, I am emotionally just destroyed sometimes after a shift and we have kids and there's just a lot, right? So what would be some pieces of advice you would tell people that are marrying somebody in vet med or even just an emergency?
I would just say in marriage in general, I mean, you have to be supportive. You have to listen, and sometimes you don't give advice. Like I have no advice to give in that scenario,
Mhm.
but just to listen and understand that there are traumatic times, and also support that there's other places you can go talk and get things off your chest. Right? I mean, I can be here to listen and support all day long, but I'm not one to give advice.
Mhm.
So um, be supportive in that too. You need somebody to talk to and get, professional advice on how to deal with certain scenarios and things like that.
I mean, I do have a therapist, and so that is great, and
And
that is
honestly,
really
most
helpful.
veterinarians should. I mean, it's a tough profession. And you have to physically put animals down for, whatever reasons.
Mhm.
That's a tough job. So I wouldn't say ER medicine's different or worse than GP practice. It's just different, but it's still a tough profession.
Yeah, I think it is a tough profession overall, and then I think maybe sometimes because the hours are longer and just the pace is what it is in the ER, it can be a little harder. I mean, the average span that people stay is just a couple years in emergency medicine, and I don't know if it's similar in humans. I will say too, you are really good at understanding. Like, I enjoy like my long baths sometimes. Like I sent you, I think, a funny TikTok about, Saturday we did stuff for the family. Today we're going to do what mom wants, and mom wants to sleep. And like, you're really good about kind of helping keep the kids occupied if I need to sleep or need to catch up on things and understanding like that's just going to be a part of like what I do. So I just appreciate you. That's all. Sorry. Didn't mean to get too sappy on you. Okay, so we do have questions, and these are submitted to people over time on social media just about like you and me and our relationship. And so I thought it'd be really fun to go through them. So the first one, which I love this type of question because I'm a words of encouragement type of girl. But the first one is, what is your favorite thing about each other? Do you need me to go first or can you go first?
Let's just say personality, A-type personality, fun to be around, always something exciting,
Never
something
know what
new.
to expect.
Yeah.
Well, and I would say that you are like the most supportive person I've ever met. I always tell people like Shane's not going to tell me no. He's going to ask questions that's going to make me think about how am I going to get something done or how much is on my plate. But you've never said like that's the worst idea or that's dumb
Just
and
I'm
just
afraid to wake up, be numb from the no.
it's because I know how to castrate. So you're also very funny, and I wish I was as funny as you. I'm actually very jealous of that quality, but I do think that it works well between the two of us because we're both pretty driven, and we're not afraid to try new things and new experiences. So we have our whiteboard session over there of like our 5-year plan. So it's
Color
definitely
color coordinated.
yeah, it is pretty. It's so pretty. But we're gonna be married, what, I think almost 20 years next year. So it's been great. I
Long
very,
time.
very much enjoyed it. I know. And I always tell people, I'm like, I still really like him. So, um, okay. Next one I thought was hilarious. Someone wanted to know, what are our thoughts on prenups? like, do we have like some
See,
random money
I think in
somewhere
our scenario, it would have been
that
like, okay, who gets the debt, right?
yeah, like I'm like, are we from a rich family that we didn't know about or something? No. I think it's interesting because I do think it's maybe just based on the concept of like, how much is combined in your life, like finances and not and what, would you
I can understand a prenup. Let's say that you were a actress or something, and before we got married and, famous and wealthy, I can understand where you would wanna protect that a little bit. I mean, you know the person you think, right, that you're
right,
marrying,
but
but you
you
never really know for sure. I mean, it takes time sometimes, so
well, and especially if you are maybe someone who is a celebrity or is someone that like someone would seek out for a
yeah.
purpose. But I feel like for you and I, like we've built what we have together.
Yeah, there's
Um,
like so there was
so
we
there's
just signed a prenup to begin with, like, okay, who gets the debt?
like, do you want the horse?
That's right.
But so it is like one of those things that you I think if you brought a lot into it or if you had been married before and there's maybe assets you want to protect for like a
Or
child
if
or
you've been
something.
burned in the past, like, I
Yeah.
just understand where
Yeah.
people are like, wanna be protective.
And honestly, I think I loved you so much that if you had said like, "Hey, let's sign this," I would have been like, "Okay, cool, whatever."
I think I would've been the same way.
I feel
If you
like you're
truly
very logical though. You would have like logicked the hell out of it just
well, I mean,
because.
like, I guess, like, if you would've said, "Okay, I'm worth 100,000,000, I'm gonna sign a prenup,"
Yeah.
part of my back of my head would be like, "Okay, well, you don't want me to work anymore, so I can't build a nest egg for myself,
Right.
so at least carve a little bit out, so if something were to happen, it'd be equivalent to me,
Yeah.
saving for
And
retirement."
we do not have 100,000,000. I don't want anybody to think
We did not have that.
we did not secretly win the lottery. Okay. Okay. What are our individual roles as business owners? So, do you want to I guess first like in the vet hospital. So, according to the organizational chart, I am the CEO and the medical director of the hospital. And I kind of am in charge of all the
Personnel.
HR, culture, yeah,
I basically just do
marketing.
finances.
Yeah. And you are the CFO, essentially. But you do a lot too with like inventory management and profitability. And so I guess, yes, finances, but also insurance and all that kind of stuff. I think you're like the operations person, which, no?
I would say I try to punt that as much as I can because I don't know the workflow of the hospital,
Yeah.
so I can't really deal with operations. I can give you opinions on,
Efficiency and things like
yeah,
that.
what you may wanna look at or think about, but
Yeah.
I don't wanna make decisions over how many CSRs you need or how many vet techs you need.
Yeah.
It really is
Like, for
outside of my
example, right
domain.
now, we're about to add a doctor, so we've been building the team up, and we're gonna lose someone to vet school in August. So, I mean, I'm pretty much in charge of all of that, of coordinating, hiring, and what the team's gonna look like and what the flow is gonna be with the new doctor coming in, and you haven't had much input in that other than for me to say, "This is what we're gonna pay these people," and you making sure that they start getting paid on time, but that's it.
I
So,
would agree.
okay. Okay, pros and cons of working with family. And honestly, let's be honest, this is not the only family business. We have another business that we actually have,
So
I think almost all of our
all of our businesses are family businesses.
so we have a renovation company with your dad. We have an investment company with my family. We have a tank distributor company with brother-in-law and my dad. Is that the only businesses we have? And then you and me obviously own the hospital together, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so everything is together. And I think maybe we have different opinions on it a little bit. So you tell me your opinion.
I think we probably do 'cause I grew up in family businesses. I
Mhm.
mean, all of my family on both sides all own their own businesses, and family was always intertwined. So I can remember sitting down at my grandfather's table on Sunday night and him wanting to, buy a local gas station because the gas station was shutting down. He wanted the family's opinion and feedback, and everybody had an open discussion about, why we should do this, why we should not do this, and came to the conclusion that it wasn't a good fit for the family. But everything's been like that. I mean, the family farm, the timber, the
Mhm.
cows, the, you know, construction company my dad owned with his brother. I mean, it was all family generated. My mom with a flower shop and everybody was family work there. So it's just been ingrained.
Eh,
And it's always tough. There's always tough conversations. There's not really yelling matches, but there can be.
mhm.
Same thing with, you know, family businesses that we have today. Sometimes you have hard conversations up front. It takes a little while for everybody to figure out what their swim lanes are and trust that things are going to get done and deal with the things that overlap. It's just, that's what I grew up in. So
I think you are a much kinder person than me sometimes. I think like you understand numbers, but you also, I mean, there's been things that we've talked about and basically said like, yes, we will do that and support that person or do whatever because they're family. And we're on the same page about that. I think I'm a little harsher sometimes. And for me, it is much harder to deal with somebody that I'm going to see at Christmas and Thanksgiving and be frustrated with them and want them to do something different job
well,
wise.
also, I mean, like, if you own a business, you can just fire somebody, right? If they're not
Yeah.
performing, you're fired.
Yeah.
Family, you
You
can't
can't.
do that.
You
You got to
can't do
figure
that.
out a way to work around it. You got to figure out a way to have common ground. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
again, but that's what I grew up in. And, same thing with our brother-in-law in this business. He grew up in family businesses.
Yeah.
So that's all he's ever known as well. So,
And I think that there is so much value, honestly, in knowing each other really well, knowing how to communicate, knowing your strengths and
yeah.
weaknesses and how to like work with that. But for me, and you and I have even had this conversation where we've had something like, that I wanted done at the hospital. That was something I kind of gave to you, and it wasn't happening as fast as I wanted it to happen. And I had to say, like, okay, so right now I want to say, like, why is this not done? And be very like frustrated and very direct. But we're married and I love you. And I don't want to come at you like I would maybe normally handle that. And so I think it's been good for me, honestly, to have to learn how to kind of handle and control some of that frustration and that expectation
But
sometimes.
I'd also add, it's not for everybody, right? I mean, know your relationship and your partner. If you think that working together and having conversations at date night, you know, won't work, then don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it.
So,
Well, and I do think that we both defer to each other with the things that we are strong at, and we might not always agree, but there is always someone who is going to make that final decision, and then we'll support each other. And I do think if you're in a relationship where one person always has to have the last word, or that one person's always, then it's not going to work
I
very
would
well.
agree.
So. That would be our 2 cents on having a family business. Okay. I think this is for you because the answer from you would obviously be yes, but have you ever expressed anal glands?
No,
Do
God,
you
no.
know what
Zero chance that will ever happen.
do you know what anal glands are?
Yeah, I think we talked about this.
And you've come in there, but when we've expressed them
And
before,
quickly left. Yeah.
it's like that really nasty metallic-y smell that doesn't get off your clothes.
Yes.
And you would never.
No.
Okay. No, he would never. Shane does not like to get his hands dirty, which our children follow that because like when we do Halloween, my daughter literally is like covered in pumpkin goop and she's like got her hands in there and scooping out seeds and stuff. And my son wears gloves and he's like picking stuff out. And we're like, this is so me and you, like epitomizing our children. Okay. How to keep a relationship healthy. And I do think we can speak to this because I mean, we've been married a long time and we have 2 kids and we've been through a lot and moves and vet school and all the things. So what do you think keeps our relationship healthy?
Date nights are good. Open conversations, communication is good. I would say unconditional love. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but you can't love something else more than your partner, whatever that is. You got to give and understand that other things are more important.
Yeah. I would say one thing is marry someone better than you, or at least that you think is, um, a better person and makes you a better person. Because then I think you're always trying to kind of up your game and think about them. And it's not just about you. And then
And don't argue over every small little freaking detail.
no,
Not worth it.
no. I think that we are big at that on keeping our eye on the prize and like what really, really matters. And I think because we've done so much in life and like our values are just so aligned overall. And we work hard. We work a lot. We work really hard. But we both know our ultimate goal is to have flexibility for our family and to have financial security for our family. And I think because we're headed in the same direction, it works. And then absolutely date nights are a must. Vacations together, just the 2 of us, are a must. I mean, I think I plan my life from like one vacation or one trip to the next with you. And it just helps me when I'm on the hamster wheel sometimes of like, okay, I got to just get to this. And then I get to like really slow down and reset. And then also which this is the simplest thing ever, but it is hard for some of us that are type A, but learning like to ask for what you need and to tell the other person. You said that probably year 2 of marriage when I was frustrated at you for something and you were like, I literally didn't know. I had no idea that you needed that. And it was such a light bulb moment for me of like, oh crap, I need to actually tell him.
There's that old saying, you can't look up your butt and read your mind. So
Never heard that that's got to be Louisiana saying. That is not a Texas. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I've not heard that. So there's your take home relationship tip right there. So, okay. This one, I already know the answer to. Does he like animals as much as you do?
No.
Absolutely not. No. And I actually had people when we were dating that was like, he's not like a big animal person, you're going to be a vet. But you had so many other amazing qualities, it didn't matter. But it goes back to like the getting dirty thing and slobber and hair, and you're just not that person that's going to be super sensitive. Did you ever have like a childhood dog, like any animal that you were just like, this one was cool, this one was great?
We had a lot of animals, but I can't say that
there was any that like really just stuck with you.
I had a black lab at one point that I remember pretty vividly, but outside of that.
And our last 2 labs were great. Like they were really, really
good.
This one? He's got a screw. He's a chocolate with the screw loose, but that's okay. Okay. Last one. And this is, I think we kind of answered it, but let's just make sure. What do you do besides owning a hospital?
What do I do? Mainly manage finances for the other businesses. Try to play golf 3 or 4 days a week.
Every day. Yeah. Yeah.
We do a lot with our kids, a lot with volleyball.
I mean, you are kind of, it's weird. You are kind of like a work from home dad.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Like, so you do a lot of the kid management.
With a very flexible schedule.
Yeah.
So if I need to go pick up a kid or whatever, it's not a problem.
Yeah. And we used to joke that you would be a stay-at-home dad 100%, which I feel like you kind of are, but you run businesses. So when you're home, you're not just hanging out. Like you have a lot going on, but you are able to golf, which I think keeps you sane.
And some of that's just structure and life so that it works for us. I mean, even when I'm playing golf, I'm still working. I mean, I'm walking from hole to hole, I'm checking emails and taking a quick phone call or whatever. So
yeah. My favorite meme I read recently said, I don't work for the man 9 to 5. I work for myself 24/7. I was like, that is us.
That is 100% true.
Totally us. Okay. So hopefully you got to know Shane and I a little bit better. Appreciate you.
I'm very outspoken. Extremely good at
if you see him out in public, he would love for you to just come straight up to him and talk his ear off. That's his favorite thing ever. No, I am not one. So that's why we're a good team and a good mix. So we appreciate you listening. This is Questions With Crocker podcast. You can leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. You can watch us on YouTube. You can send us a text during the show if you have any input. And just thanks for being here and have a wonderful week. Bye.